it seems like we're doing a good job with research on heavy metals at Harvard, Yale. Really, the Ivy League schools are doing this. And one of the presenters there demonstrated how that DMPS, that's by far the most common, by the way, DMPS was able to get rid of lead and was pushing it out at 10 times the normal rate, which is very impressive. But when you quit after X amount of treatments and then re-measure the lead again, just whatever lead content was coming out through just ordinary urination, back to square one. We're again measuring lead. In other words, it started up some detoxification, wasn't able nearly to get rid of it all, and it just came right back to the levels streaming around, poisoning this patient as it was before. Very, very discouraging. And I could tell by the attitude of this presenter that, hey folks, what you're doing is just not working. It's not worth it, because we're leaving the patient in weakened state and you're back to square one and worse when you're done. So why even bother? Why this problem? It is because we're looking at it in a very simplistic way. There's a metal there, let's get rid of it. Let's not forget about the patient here. They have erroneous detoxification pathways. There's something wrong with how they are detoxifying. We're all exposed to these heavy metals. But some of us take it and don't get rid of it. And some of us get rid of it very well. So obviously the people who have problems with it, it's not just an exposure problem, but it's a getting rid of problem. And we're not fixing that. So if all we do is try to get rid of it and then drop the ball, you're right back to square one. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So detoxification pathways are not being supported at the same time. And that is the big clue, and that's really the clincher of tonight's presentation. Yeah, we know how to get rid of it, but you have to also fix the detoxification pathways. So let's go there right away. 10 principles of healthy detoxification. And you know, this could be for Teflon. This could be for mold. This could be for a lot of things. But yes, it very much applies for heavy metals also. And becomes even more critical for heavy metals. You drink 8 to 10 glasses of filtered water a day, and you don't have to get too sophisticated here. Water is so controversial, but even if all you do is use a lowly Brita filter, it is better than not using a filter. Does that make sense? 1 to 3 bowel movements per day. And I got this from different sources. There's a lot of different opinions. And this one is more my opinion, because in Europe we consider 3 bowel movements a day normal. And here the literature says 1 is normal. So I said 1 to 3. Yeah, being a politician, taking a little break. But more is not always better. Once you exceed 5, you're starting to talk irritable bowel, and it's not a normal thing anymore. Does that make sense? And less than 1 is also not normal. Eat organic. So when you do have a toxicity issue, let's not load you down with more, because microscopic amounts of pesticides, residues of certain heavy metals, which is found in some pesticides, so especially aluminum, we don't want it in your body right now. Okay? Maybe later on we can be a little less fussy, but right now, while you are detoxifying, be fussy. Be a monk or a nun. Be strict, in other words. Eat 8 to 10 servings of colorful vegetables. Rainbow diet. Absolutely critical. The rainbow diet, you need that wide variety. There is so much out there of single antioxidant drinks. Mona V is one of them that just came out. What's in that one again? Yeah, do you know? Which one? That's the side or a yeah. What's that?
They tested less than a relative good use as far as phenols.
Okay. So that's one thing. So it's a very expensive juice, Mona V is, and it tastes good, I'm sure. And it comes from a very famous antioxidant fruit, acai, which is the latest buzzword out there. For 35 bucks, you can have a nice bottle which has about 10 servings. Folks, you can take that 35 bucks, buy a ton of blueberries and blackberries and raspberries and yes, some strawberries, mix them together, and you have real life food that can outperform that any day, any time. Yeah? I'm not saying it's not good for you. I'm not saying that. But let's use real food here. Cilantro, we know, binds to mercury like mad. The cruciferous vegetables are absolutely wonderful for this. The sulfur-containing foods, garlic and onion, are very powerful fuel for your detoxification pathways and absolutely critical to keep that going. So you can't get it all from just one thing. Yeah, you need that rainbow diet, that variety, and that's where health is at. And eat lots of it. So when you're eating 8 to 10 servings, you're almost a vegan, right? Or maybe a flexitarian. Maybe that's a good word for this. You're basically a vegetarian, but you're somewhat flexible. If you're in some setting where they're serving some fish or something, fine, have it. But mostly vegetables. Avoid caffeine, nicotine, and moderate alcohol intake.
Where does decaf coffee fit?
Decaf coffee, I don't know.
Swiss water wash.
That's a Swiss, I hear you.
Yeah.
It's probably better. Why caffeine though? Let us hit on caffeine since that's a certain, I can say certain for that one. Caffeine really jolts the adrenals. And adrenals, when they are under stress, again, makes you that much more sensitive to toxins. 5 times more sensitive. So that then that little bit of mercury that might be leaching from your amalgams is going to affect you 5-fold if you have coffee. By the way, I've also read studies. Now I got an answer for you. Coffee in general, but even without the caffeine, makes you leach your amalgams into your bloodstream. Yeah, that was a fairly recent study.
It did what?
So it leaches your amalgams, your mercury amalgams, makes it leach more. Yeah. So mercury gas gets emitted more with coffee. Lemons do the same thing, unfortunately.
Lemons?
Yes, I
Oh,
So, exercising 5 days a week with conditioning, strengthening, and stretching. That is our next topic in July, and that one is not. That one's going to really go into. I'll talk about that later. But this one is absolutely critical, folks. It's absolutely critical because we have to sweat profusely 3 times a week. Yes, you can do that through a sauna. Or steam bath, or something like that. That's lazy women's or guys way out. Let's exercise, and let's get our heart rate up at the same time. The endorphins that get released at the same time are hugely anti-inflammatory, which resets your brain function, your nervous system function. Why not do that? And yeah, it's absolutely important because we've got to get rid of these chemicals somehow. Eliminate white flour, sugar, and high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is pervasive. It is so responsible for so many of our health problems today. It makes us inflamed. It creates insulin resistance. I can go on and on about that. I will not. But it is much worse than just plain sugar. Take a multivitamin or mineral recommended for your age and needs. So this has to support your liver detoxification pathways, as well as your kidney detoxification pathways. It has to be age specific, and it has to be specific for whatever heavy metal that you're doing. So, deeply relax daily. Create islands of peace. I know you hear me say that a lot, but islands of peace is critical. It's not rocket science, but you need to get that adrenal back to relaxed mode, and you can do it in just 1 minute by doing deep breathing exercises. Just hold and out. Do 4 or 5 of those. If you have high blood pressure, you can lower your blood pressure by 20 points right there. You can get your heart rate to come down. Your nervous system goes back to its balance, the sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system. Bowel contractions and irritable bowel, they'll slow down. Everything goes to normal. This is almost like a little miniature meditation or prayer session. Yeah? So, little islands of peace. It's really important to do that. If you're about to eat and you're going from 90 miles an hour to sit down and eat, that does not work, folks. It does not work. You will have indigestion.